Hi, I'm Aura, and I'm the host of Collective Mind, and I don't know if anyone's actually here yet, but I'm gonna do a knitting live stream. And I have makeup and everything on because I filmed a video earlier. I'm on the second to last stripe of the rainbow blanket. Anybody in chat yet? Hi. Kian? Is that right? I get so nervous trying to pronounce names that I'm not confident in pronouncing. And I'm not sure I've seen that one before. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. I almost forgot about this live stream. Because for anyone who might not know, watching it back or whatever, we schedule some of our live streams at least ahead of time and post it on Discord and announcements. And we did that with this one. And I remembered like 15 minutes ago. I had remembered earlier today. And then I got all ready and filmed a video and edited the video and uploaded the video, so it's going to be ready for publishing it. And then I finished that and I was like, oh, I should probably go eat something. And then maybe I'll just like watch TV or something. And then I just suddenly remembered and checked the time, and I had 15 minutes to eat something quickly and start the stream. I'm glad I remembered. Or I was actually thinking about filming a second video, too. Because I have another one all planned out. And then I was like, oh crap. Oh good, I said it right. How are you, Kian? Not sure anyone else is here yet. I'm listening to music. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I finish this blanket. I wonder if I have enough yarn to do another striped blanket of some kind. Yeah. That was kind of my thinking with pronouncing it. Hi, Ellie. Nice. I just ate too. Oh, you deleted that. Okay. Sorry. Sorry you're dizzy. That sucks. Hi. I was about to just default to asking how you are, Ellie, because you just joined, and then I reminded myself that you already said how you're doing and I already answered, so. Nice. This blanket is getting unmanageable. That's a lot of sleep. Oh. The station I'm listening to has a lot of positive triggers for different people in it, but it was the station that I was in the mood for, so it's playing a song now that might pull Anna. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we sleep more sometimes when we're sick too. Or like having a depression spike. Anna's already close. We'll see if she actually switches or just hangs out close. Oh yeah, that'd be really hard to sleep that much or wish you were sleeping that much once school starts. That's awesome. Anna's really close, but I think it's still just barely, mostly aura. Oh yeah, that's really nice. That's how we've been doing our classes too. Helps us a lot to have the extra flexibility. Me? I'm actually having a pretty good day. I filmed a video that I've been struggling to film for a long time, and did some other productive stuff like putting laundry away, and first day in a while that I put makeup on. I almost forgot about the live stream, so I rushed slightly to actually start it at 7 like I said I would. Oh my god, that's me, brain. We're getting a little blurry, if you couldn't tell. Me, Aura, and Anna and Naya are all kind of blurry together now, somewhat. But they're kind of letting me do the talking, I think. I might have to do more song skipping than normal if people don't want to be pulled toward the front right now. Hi, Kane. Am I saying that right too? I've had a lot of luck so far, somehow, correctly pronouncing people's names, but one of these times I'm gonna get it horribly wrong and deeply offend somebody. Who else is here? Oh, I think Natalie's around because she definitely influenced the outfit that we put on. Nice. My streak of correctly pronouncing names continues. The video that I just finished filming that I have been having trouble filming for a while now, like months, is like a channel trailer for the YouTube channel, which I'm really excited about. The fact that I finally got that done, and I think I'm going to try to film another video to release on Monday, and then publish the channel trailer later in the week, because it's not like a real video, it's just a really short trailer. So I think I'll try to film a real video and then make that the Monday video, because then the uploads also won't be technically back to back. The compilation for 250 subscribers and then the channel trailer without like a real video in between. So it's very slightly, mostly Aura fronting, which is why I still have my name and picture and description and stuff up. But Anna and Naya and Natalie are all pretty close and kind of blurry with me. Ooh, but it's maybe about to be Anna because of the song that just came on. We'll see. It's okay. We decided at the beginning of starting the channel that we wanted to keep our names and pictures and stuff up the whole time because we are so bad at remembering names that a lot of times when we're watching other systems videos and they'll just have it pop up for a couple seconds and then go away, I'll get like a couple more minutes into the video and completely forget who it is until I know them pretty well. Like if I've watched a lot of their stuff, it's easier. But there's too much of my music in this station we're on. There we go. My new picture's on here. But yeah, we think it's really helpful to be able to check the name the whole time and look at the picture and to have the description up there, especially because so many of us have pretty long lists of roles. So, yeah. We think that helps a lot. Hi. It's still not just me, those same other people are still around, but it's another song that's a positive trigger for me. Close enough after the previous one that came on, and this one's a bit of a stronger one, so. I'm glad you like the idea. Yeah, the conversation wouldn't always be so easy to just continue, but because I had been really close already, like I was listening to the whole conversation too. And I knew some of what Aura was planning to say, but she is also still close, and she just continued telling me what she was gonna say. A lot of us who spend a lot of time in like the main area of our inner world have really, really good communication with Aura. Especially the direction of like Aura talking to us, because most of us have had more practice with internal communication than Aura has. So, like, it's easier for me to know what she's saying than for her to know what I'm saying. But she still has pretty good communication the other direction too with a lot of us. This blanket is getting a little unmanageably long. We'll have to see how long it is when we finish this purple stripe and see if we still want to do the pink one. Because it might end up being plenty long without the pink stripe. I'm not sure what you mean by backstory. because I can think of a few different things you might mean by that. Like, we all have memories, like we all have personal histories. Most of us outside of fictives don't have memories like from any kind of outside source, or memories that like aren't either body memories or inner world memories that we like experienced. But I know that that's a thing that like some alters will form with, like, even if they aren't fictives, they'll form with memories that they didn't like actually experience in the body. Like, they'll remember having a family or something that isn't the body's family, or any family that they might have within their system, and that kind of thing. Most of us don't have that except fictives. Okay, yeah. I was wondering if that's what you meant, but if you had meant like memories generally, then yes, we do have memories, and different alters will have different amounts of memories and different amounts of internal versus external memories and that kind of thing. Oh yeah, communication is really complicated. An assumed size of what the blanket is now? I know we had an approximate size that we were aiming for, and we like calculated it out in advance, but one of the things that we do when we're getting toward the end of a project is we kind of just hold it up and see if it looks like, if it physically is long enough to function as an adult-sized blanket. And then on top of that, if we hold it up and like the shape looks correct, because sometimes it'll look like it's too short even if it's functionally long enough because of how wide it is. Sorry. So yeah, that's probably what we'll do when we get to the end of the purple stripe, is we'll hold it up and see if it looks finished. And if it does, then we might just leave it there, because then it will be the actual like typical 7 colors of the rainbow type thing. I'm blanking on if we personally know any systems without amnesia, but in terms of like diagnoses, DID requires some amount of like clinically significant abnormal amnesia, but OSDD doesn't, or at least doesn't require as much. I'm not positive if it's no amnesia or just much less off the top of my head. I would have to double check. But one of the required criteria for DID is clinically significant amnesia that's not explained by normal forgetting or any other known thing. Like if you like substances, for instance, if you like black out from substances or something, that's not normal forgetting, but that's also not like meeting the amnesia criteria for DID. But systems can definitely have little to no amnesia. For the OSDD diagnosis, if you have no amnesia, I think you would need to be like very distinct, because the two main types of OSDD that I know about are like the ones that are systems, because OSDD is a blanket diagnosis for any collection of symptoms that like mental health professional determines should meet the criteria for a dissociative disorder, but doesn't meet the specific criteria for any existing dissociative disorders. So it's kind of the catch-all for this person has a dissociative disorder, but they don't quite meet like one of the criteria for something. So if it's ones that are like almost DID, the two main types of that are little to no amnesia, I think. It might be just little, or it might be just no, I'm not sure. And less distinct alters, like less distinct identities, so they would be more similar to each other. Some of the things I've heard is like they'll be like more one-dimensional in a way, if that makes sense, or they'll be like different versions of the host, for instance, like at different ages is one that I've heard, or like they'll just kind of be like the embodiment of a role, if that makes sense, like the librarian and the doctor and I don't know, things like that. Those are the two main like forms of OSDD systems that we hear talked about a lot. Probably should have skipped this song. I might still be able to. Nope. There we go. That one will pull me again. Oh, the other thing I meant to say, though, is that the thing I'm not sure about is if you can still be diagnosed with OSDD if you have less distinct identities and little to no amnesia, or if you have to have either, like, distinct identity states or clinically significant amnesia. That I'm not sure about. Because we haven't looked into OSDD to the same extent that we've looked into DID, because DID is our diagnosis. So we've done more like personal research on that. But it might also be like provider specific to some extent, of if that specific provider thinks that it's clinically significant enough to any extent to be diagnosed as OSDD. Might just depend on who you see. But there are definitely also different types of amnesia. Okay, good, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm not sure where, like, in the world the ICD is used instead of the DSM, but I think PDID from the ICD is, like, serves the same function as OSDD in the DSM, if that makes sense. I think they're both kind of like the catch-all, but like we haven't looked into the ICD nearly as much as the DSM, because again, the DSM is what we were diagnosed with, so most of our research has been applying it to our life and our experience and stuff like that. Yeah, the amount of amnesia in our system depends on a lot of things. Like alters who are kind of deeper in our system or in subsystems that aren't near the front and that kind of thing will have very, very significant total amnesia about anything going on in our life. Like, for large chunks of time, as though they were dormant practically during that time, because they've just haven't fronted or come anywhere near the front in like years, for instance. And they just spend basically all of their time inside. So that would be like one of the more extreme examples of amnesia in our system. Oh, bye, Ghost. I don't remember who was out. Kane, I think. Bye. What was I saying? Oh, amnesia in our system. But then, like, the most extreme other end of that spectrum, kind of mostly, would be Aura, who is always fronting or co-fronting or co-conscious pretty much, like, for years now. Not for our whole life, but for years. Not like the number 4. A lot of years. I'm not great at talking right now. I don't know why. So, like, she has amnesia about, like, most of our childhood and has emotional amnesia about a lot of more current things. And sometimes memories will be taken from her after the fact, like by gatekeepers. But generally speaking, she knows everything that's going on in our day-to-day life because she's watching all of it. She's either watching or doing all of it. And then there are people kind of in the middle where, like, I am not always watching everything that goes on in our external life, but I can almost always very easily get filled in very quickly by Aura. If I switch and I don't know what's going on, I just kind of check with her really fast and then I know what's going on and then I can keep doing stuff. But it's also situational. So, like, if, just as an example, let's say Jade from our system gets triggered to the front and she's having a flashback or a trauma response of some kind, that kind of puts up barriers around the front in our system. And most other alters in our system, depending on the exact type of flashback or whatever that it is, won't be able to get close to the front, won't be able to know anything that's going on in the front, and won't be able to find out much about it afterwards. At least not in any kind of detail. Like, they might generally be able to find out, oh, Jade had a flashback, but they won't know any of the specifics about that. Aura might, and, like, some gatekeepers might, but they usually won't know in much detail. And Aura usually won't keep the emotional piece of the memory after the fact. And a lot of times she'll lose details over time. But that's one of the other cases where, like, generally speaking, I'd be able to just come up to the front and hang out near the front, or switch and hang out in the front for a while. But if someone in the front is having a flashback, I probably won't be able to. I probably won't even be able to get close to the front. So, just depends on a lot of stuff. For lowering amnesia, I would say improving communication would be a really, really big one. Because that kind of comes at that problem from two angles. It helps you deal with the amount of amnesia you currently have in the meantime, and improving communication often has the side effect of lowering amnesia to an extent, at least. Beyond that, it would be things like grounding and calming techniques for in the moment, because at least in our system, like I was just kind of saying, amnesia gets heightened with like stress and trauma and flashbacks and things like that. So directly dealing with the flashback and trying to ground and things like that will help with the amnesia being higher in that moment. And then long term, it's like trauma processing and stuff like that to make the amnesia not as necessary, you know? Which all of that is coming from the perspective of a traumagenic system, which is all I can really give advice on. And I don't know how common amnesia would be outside of that anyway, but yeah, that would be my advice. That's what comes to mind. Interesting. Okay, good. I'm glad that helped. Ellie, do you know if your system has an inner world and alters just don't retain memories of it when they're fronting? Because I've heard of that. Or you also might just not have an inner world, because not every system has an inner world. And then alters might just either be fronting co-conscious or like blackout amnesia. Or I guess in your case, maybe not blackout amnesia. Yeah, that would make sense. What I've heard about systems who do have an inner world but can't remember things about it when they're fronting, I think I've heard that mostly in contexts where the host is front stuck all the time. And then it functions to like keep that information away from the host in a way, if that makes sense. Because if other alters don't remember the information that they're not supposed to share, they can't possibly share it with the host. Makes sense. I didn't know you liked that song that much. Yeah, it can sometimes be hard to tell the difference between, especially like fragments who rarely or never front, and NPCs. That can sometimes be like a fuzzy line that's hard to distinguish. Yeah, that can be hard, Ellie, because sometimes you don't have that much say over when they front, you know? Not actively preventing them from switching is definitely helpful. Or at least in most contexts. There are usually exceptions to most things, but yeah. I guess there's a balance between trying not to fight switches and trying to force switches, you know? Neither extreme is usually going to be helpful. But there are situations where we force switches, and there are situations where we fight them. It just depends. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I mean. Like, even if you are capable of forcing switches, it's not always helpful, and it's not always going to be, like, they might not always react well to being forced out, if that makes sense. And I definitely can't know for sure in any way what's best for you and your system. It's not my place to say that, but it's something to think about, at least, I think. Because I know in our case, we have a lot of times where people are fighting over not needing to front. Which is the opposite of what we hear people talk about the most, I think, because a lot of systems talk about people fighting over fronting, but we might more often have people fight over not wanting to be the one fronting. They're like, no, I want to keep hanging out inside. I don't want to do dishes or go to the doctor or whatever. Yeah, which that's exactly my point, is that you will probably, you will know more about your situation than I will, obviously. So I'm not trying to tell you what to do, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit and give like other perspectives to think about to help you decide what to do, if that makes sense. But it could also be altar specific. So, forcing a switch for us would depend a lot on the altar and the situation, like the reason we're forcing a switch. Like gatekeepers in some situations will force a switch. Like, I don't know if you happened to watch the compilation that we just released on our YouTube channel. It's a switching compilation to celebrate 250 subscribers. But one of the switches in that video was actually a gatekeeper forcing a switch because Joseph, who is a trauma holder in our system, who how do I want to say that? He couldn't talk and he was on a live stream and he really didn't want to be on the live stream and he was having trouble switching back inside. He hadn't wanted to switch in the first place, and one of our gatekeepers came up to the front to help and forced herself into the front instead of Joseph so that he could go back inside. So there are situations like that. And then there are situations where, like, where, say, someone in our system is triggered and is trying to go inside to feel safer or to, like, it might help with the flashback. A lot of trauma holders in our system feel safer inside than fronting in the body. So they might, like, do a positive trigger or something like that to get a protector or someone else in the front instead of them. But that's the type of situation where, depending on what's going on, we might also use negative triggers. Because there's, like, different levels of negative trigger, too. So, like, there are some levels that will... It's still a negative trigger. It still sucks. But some negative triggers won't, like, put the alter it's triggering into a full flashback, for instance. So that's a different level of negative trigger than the ones that will fully start a flashback. So there are situations like a persecutor is trying to hold the front hostage, for instance, where we might force a switch with negative triggers. But that's usually reserved for situations that are a safety issue, or it depends a lot, because there are some protectors who have a few, like, milder negative triggers who a lot of other alters have just, like, blanket consent to use that milder negative trigger to trigger that alter, that protector, if they feel it's necessary, basically. But consent is a big thing, obviously, with that. And our partner system also knows what some of those triggers are and can use some of them if they think it's important enough. But that took a while to trust them that much. Yeah, that switch was really stressful. But like another way to think about like different types of negative triggers, a way that we think about it a lot is like what kind of mindset that trigger will put the alter in. Because sometimes I don't know how to say this in a way that doesn't sound kind of heartless, but sometimes it's a useful mindset for some situations. So like we have some protectors who have some triggers that will not put them into a full flashback, but will put them into a mindset of like masking, basically. And so when they switch, they will be expecting to be in a situation that is not safe enough to unmask, which, depending on the situation, that could be helpful to make sure that they are instantly masking when they switch. And if they are the best alter to handle whatever situation we're in and they've consented to that in the moment or in advance, that can be a helpful tool. But consent, again, is the biggest thing there. And there are situations, like, it changes so much situationally. Because, like, if we did that, like, I'm gonna use Jayden as an example. If we did that with one of Jayden's triggers on one of Jayden's trauma anniversaries when they were not, like, on duty as a protector and were taking a break, and it was the first time they had slept inside in God knows how long, and like that situation would have to be pretty extreme for us to resort to that. And the kind of extreme it would need to be would probably trigger Jayden on its own, you know? So we probably wouldn't need to in that type of a situation, because negative triggers can also obviously be outside of our control. So if a situation was bad enough to call for that and Jayden was the best fit for it, Jayden would probably already be triggered out by the situation. So it depends on so many things. Oh, but also in that compilation video I just remembered, there was a bit where I don't know exactly what the situation was inside, but for whatever reason, Snake was fronting, and other protectors inside in the moment were arguing over what song for which alter Snake should play to trigger somebody out. And that's also a thing that happens a lot, is alters in the moment will be like, this is okay to trigger me with this right now, in this exact context. And I think that specific example didn't go well because Snake tried to play a trigger song for Jayden and then Emily switched instead for some reason. And I don't think Emily had even been close. And Jayden had been really close. And that's normally like a really reliable trigger for Jayden, but And there are situations where we can't force a switch. Or at least couldn't without, like, resorting to something too extreme. Because there are some things kind of built into how our system functions in a trauma context where if a protector is triggered badly enough, a different protector who isn't like the same kind of protector, who doesn't have that same category of trauma, isn't going to be able to switch unless that other protector gets so badly triggered that it like overrides the other one. So, but in that case, like, that doesn't help, because if, like, Jade, for instance, is having a horrible flashback and they're trying to like, somebody is trying to figure out how to handle it, triggering Jayden into a horrible flashback isn't better. So triggering Jayden into being in a bad mood, if that's an option, probably better, yeah. So it depends on so many things. And it's gonna be so specific to so many different situations with different alters, different systems, different contexts. We have given, I think, literally no one other than our partner system any specific trigger information like that. Never mind consent to use it. Even before then. I think it might be just barely me more than Jade. Because we just both kind of got pulled at the same time. And I don't really want to be out with the amount of makeup we're wearing and stuff, but I was getting really involved in that conversation about triggers. And then it was playing a song that's a bit of a positive trigger for Jade at the same time. I don't want to be out though. You just got really switchy suddenly. It's not even close to a song for me. Shadow's also really close. Someone else, I think Natalie. Hi. One of the gatekeepers is here too. I don't know which one. Oh, it might be two of them. That might be why I can't tell which one it is. I think it's Aurora and Kali. Okay. Now I have to decide if I'm gonna try to stay out or not. It's true. One of the other things that we wanted to say about triggers is that one of the reasons we use negative triggers under some circumstances is because they are often more reliable for us than positive triggers. It depends on how strong of a negative trigger and how strong of a positive trigger, but a lot of positive triggers will be less specific of a certain alter than negative triggers will be. And not in every case across the board. There are some positive triggers that are super specific and some negative triggers that are not at all specific and will just trigger some kind of protector or some category of trauma holder or whatever. You know what? I'm not. Still a lot of other people here. But Snake put on my station to try to stop rapid switching. We weren't switchy earlier. We hadn't had very many switches today. It was aura almost all day. I think there might have been a couple brief switches with littles, but that's it. that'll work. All the switching is making us feel sick. Because there's too many people here. There's a lot of people close. I need more. Oh, that'll work. Okay. Cool. I probably couldn't switch during this song if I wanted to. So that'll work. Yeah, I don't think that will end it yet, unless I get too triggered, but I don't think I will. Right now. Oh, is it just us? Okay. Sometimes we get really lucky with shuffle play and it plays pretty strong negative triggers. Then again, we can't really blame shuffle play if we put the songs in there. So we used to use negative triggers, like certain types of negative triggers, even pretty strong ones, very liberally. It was part of the level of control we used to try to have over the front and whatever was currently going on. I'm doing great, if you couldn't tell. Do you have any other questions or anything, Allie? Yeah, no worries. I mean, you don't have to, just because you're the only one in chat. We can also wrap up. It doesn't really matter. What kind of a vibe is that? I'm curious how you perceive me. I also give off some vibes on purpose that aren't necessarily super accurate to me, or at least not always accurate to me. It's fun because now that I know that you're worried it would be mean, I get to imagine all of the meanest things I can think of and assume that that's what you think of me. But you obviously don't have to specify if you don't want to. It's totally up to you. So I am a protector, so that's a good start. as far as the, like, stay away from me type vibes, I often give off those vibes somewhat on purpose or part of a trauma response when I'm triggered. I am less like that when I'm comfortable. It also depends a lot on who's around. But I call it bristling. Or, like, we've called it cactusing up before. I feel like I'm gonna flip the switch that makes me seem unapproachable and intimidating and all that fun stuff. I know I often come across as angry, especially when I'm bristling, but I get angry mostly about very specific types of things. Welcome back, Anderson System. Let's see, what else did you say? I mean, you're fine. You can say things about me. If you cross a line into being, like, cruel, obviously we would handle that differently. If you're, like, straight up ridiculing me as a person or something, that'd be different. Welcome back, Kane. Well, I'm glad I didn't end the stream a few minutes ago. I do often give off frustration vibes. That's definitely true. But it's so contextual. Like, if I'm triggered out, it's gonna depend on what the trigger was and what mindset it puts me in and all of that. And how quickly I ground from it. Yeah, we have, it's actually a plushie of, like, a mom and baby orca. partner system got it for us. A while ago now. There's a lot of other plushies over there, but you can't see most of them. Thanks, Anderson System. I do have a tendency that I have not completely broken out of kind of defaulting to pushing people away. So sometimes I have to kind of intentionally turn that off. But it depends on so many things. But if I'm triggered, but not completely in a flashback or not completely in a breakdown or whatever, I'm usually going to look angry. Because that's going to be more comfortable for me to look angry instead of scared or whatever else, because that would feel more vulnerable. There's still a lot of people here right now too, so that's probably affecting the overall vibe. Like, Snake is still around, especially with the song that's currently playing, because it's an artist we both like a lot. Jayden's very close. There's several gatekeepers around. Aura's obviously here, but she's not affecting the vibe much. Alistair's kind of around because I'm triggered. Who else is here? Interesting. That might be why the front is so busy. There's a couple persecutors kind of around, who I will not name. They're not really doing anything, they're just kind of lingering. But it tends to get a lot of protectors' attention. I remind you of, like, the Dark Queen from Maleficent, Mistress of Evil? I don't think I've seen that one. That movie. I'm closer to, like, a dark goddess, though. But not too far off. Maybe a different level of power. Oh, Shadow's here too. That was one of the big ones I forgot. Yeah, we have altars who don't have names. and ones who don't front very often, and ones who don't talk to other alters inside very often. I think there are some who don't even really have communication with anyone else. Or there's like a small group that only has communication with each other type thing. Yeah, Shadow's been out in like 1 or 2 live streams, I think. Would have been fairly recently. Yeah, I am pretty cool. Not to brag. There's a lot of sarcastic assholes at the front right now. Oh, man. I think it's heightened a little bit by the specific persecutors who are around. Hi, Kai. I might pause for just a minute or two to run to the bathroom, but I'll be right back. What who has to say? Oh, Virgil's here too. That's right. Oh. I mean, a lot of what other people are saying I'm not going to share, for various reasons. But I might share some of it, we'll see. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and
I should
I'm not alone now.
probably.
I
I've never
updated the
been
title
alone.
too.
Uh, see. Let me pull this up on our end.
The happiest altar in our system? Hmm.
Hey, Ellie.
I mean, it might be like a little. um, but it would depend some on what exactly you mean by happiest. Like if you mean the altar who is happiest the most often, or the altar whose like happiness peaks the highest. Like those might be different answers. Um, or the altar who's happiest right now, I couldn't tell you because it's definitely no one who's currently here. And most of my communication currently outside of the altars who are around is fairly completely cut off right now, so.
Yeah. I would definitely say it's probably a little.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many littles who like to play games all the time or TikTok sounds, stuff like that.
Yeah, but then again, a lot of our littles are going to have like the most sudden and extreme fluctuations in mood depending on what's going on. So they could go from
Oh,
very, very
definitely.
happy to very sad,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
instantly.
Mm-hmm. That is an interesting question. Yeah, I wasn't around before, Ellie. I was taking a nap. Well, the body was taking a nap. I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really do that much.
You probably should.
Nah, that's fine.
I guess that is at least partly your call.
I mean, I do sleep occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not what everybody else does. This is the first time I've been on a live stream.
Oh, probably. I think so.
I know I've been in a video or two before,
Yeah.
on voice chat once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've been on a live stream. Hooray. Always with the internal worry that people are going to start invalidating us because my voice is so much different than Onyx's.
It's funny because we worry about the opposite. That if our voices sound too similar, that people are gonna say that we're faking and we're not even good at it.
Yeah, I'm always afraid of the opposite, that like we're trying too hard to fake or
Mm-hmm.
something because it's such a polar opposite for a
Right.
voice.
But it's great evidence of how, like, any piece of information or evidence or whatever could be twisted either direction
Oh yeah,
pretty
easily.
easily.
And like there's challenges. I didn't know that. Interesting. Sorry, got distracted.
We started unexpectedly rapid switching earlier in this same stream,
Hmm.
and we kind of decided on who should try to front and hold the front because we were starting to feel sick and stuff.
Hmm.
And there's some persecutors kind of hanging around, and so we like to. There's a lot of people here. And I ended up drawing the short straw and Snake was out before me and put my Pandora Station on.
Mm-hmm.
And I skipped a few songs because they weren't like specific enough to me. They weren't holding me here well enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the fourth or fifth song or something after I skipped through most of them was, I think, my strongest negative trigger that is on that station.
Oof.
And then it played a couple after that that are a very similar vibe but aren't as strong, so it just kind of maintained that vibe. And I was like, cool. And I don't think Alistair was around until that song came on, and then he was like, I should probably go hang out over there too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before I took my little break, I summarized it as there's a lot of sarcastic assholes around.
Hmm. It's let's see.
Oh, while I was on that little break too, Ellie, I thought of just like, I'm curious if I come across that angry, how you would have, like what you would have thought if you had ever met Mama Bear before my fusion.
Yeah. I don't even think you come off that standoffish.
I definitely was during that part of the conversation.
Hmm. I mean, you definitely have the vibe of someone who you don't want to mess with. Like you're not like weak in any way.
I wasn't
But
trying to like come across as aggressive in any way, but I was bristling during that
yeah.
conversation. And to some extent, I wonder if I was doing that partly to ground, so that I wouldn't
Possibly.
end up in a full flashback or anything with the trigger songs that were playing. Sorry. I also wonder if I mask more automatically when we're wearing makeup.
No idea.
Because I associate makeup pretty thoroughly with like being out in public. Like being watched, people are looking at me. Otherwise, why would we be wearing makeup? Which now we do it a lot for videos, but historically that would have usually been the case. We put makeup on to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably do associate it somewhat with masking. Oh yeah, I have been accused of being defensive, that's for sure. I don't know why anyone would ever think that about me, but
I don't know.
mm-hmm.
See, I'm in my head, I'm comparing you to Jayden more so for like how standoffish you can be at times.
True.
And Jayden's more the one who just radiates that shit.
Yeah, which is why some of that is like, the comparisons are going to be interesting because Jayden is usually going to come off that way. Whereas I don't think I do as consistently, But I might be more likely to like turn that up higher than Jayden does in most situations.
Perhaps.
I
You
remembered to
okay?
mute that time.
Mm.
I didn't mute it for you, but I muted it for the stream.
Yeah.
I don't
No
care about
worries,
your
though.
ears.
I mean, my ears are fine.
It is not the direction I thought you were going to go with that. I thought you were going to say your ears were fucked already, so it didn't matter. Didn't matter.
No.
I wonder how differently I come across when I'm hanging out with you around other people than if I'm alone around other people.
That's a good question.
Because I don't instinctively bristle as much. I know that. Because you would come across as more intimidating than me anyway.
What?
Even if I'm
No.
trying and you're not, you would potentially come across as more intimidating than me.
I'm not intimidating. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're not always
Nobody.
intimidating. You're very capable of it, though.
People never assume that I'm intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy sarcasm implied.
I guess Jayden is often annoyed on this channel because they get triggered out most of the times that they're on this channel. Like in live streams, especially. It was me in the gender video. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with my throat right now.
I don't know either. Hmm.
By the deep voice, I don't know if you mean Sid or me or Jayden. I'm kind of leaning towards you probably meaning Sid, but if you're comparing to right now or like earlier in the live stream, then I would definitely have come across as more laid back in the gender video by comparison because I was not triggered in the gender video.
Yeah. Being triggered has a tendency to cause trouble for things.
Mm-hmm. Makes me much more likely to bristle, sometimes even without realizing it.
I mean, that's just a survival technique, which is
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
I don't want to seem vulnerable and approachable and all that stuff when I'm triggered.
Mm-hmm. Which is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone knows you're triggered, they can always take that into account.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, if they get offended that you're triggered, that's just silly.
That's true.
Like if someone has the information to know that you are triggered and can't control that right now because
Yeah.
you are afraid for whatever reason and gets mad at you for having trauma,
Yeah.
they can go eat a dick. Because it's
Uh-huh.
not up to them.
It's also it's not going to be my priority when I'm triggered to not offend people, no matter how much I care about the people in question. That's not going to be my priority. It just can't really be.
Oh my god, it's so tiny and cute.
Unless I'm treating offending you as a safety issue.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be the only way it would be that high of a priority in that moment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my voice is definitely rougher than Aura's, I completely agree. I think it's deeper than
Oh
Aura's,
yeah,
too.
definitely. You and Aura do not have the same voice.
How deep is my voice now compared to, like, Primal and or Mama Bear before the fusions?
That is going to be very hard to tell
Yeah.
because that's going to involve remembering what you sound like
Yeah.
then,
And that was a while
which
ago.
is difficult. Yes.
Yeah, I can't really turn it off.
What off?
Being triggered. It'd be nice if I could.
Hmm. It would be incredibly nice to just be like, oh, don't have trauma anymore. Well, you look at that.
Yeah, I
That would
guess it's
be
complicated because if that
tough.
equated to not having the trauma at all, obviously that'd be really nice. But if it just equated to, like, not caring about the trauma anymore, but it still was there, and I just wasn't emotionally connected to it in any way, I
That
have
doesn't mean you're not
complicated
triggered.
feelings about that.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're not triggered at all.
That's true.
Like, that would very specifically mean you are triggered, because that is a trigger mechanism for our system, like with
True.
me, of going emotionally numb to survive the situation.
It wouldn't have to be. Like, if I didn't hold the emotions for that trauma, but I held other pieces of it or whatever. But that's not the case for me. Not even close.
Hmm.
In fact, the opposite is closer to true. I hold a lot of the emotions about some of the things that are my trauma from other people who also at least know about that trauma. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I
Nothing
can
has ever
tell.
been wrong. Forget all that stuff I was just saying about trauma.
Yeah. Mm,
Oh my god.
this is too difficult.
That reminds me of moments in therapy when we talk through, like, something emotional or traumatic or whatever in detail, and then there's, like, a moment of silence for a beat too long and we just instinctively say we're fine.
Hmm.
And our therapist just looks at us like, you just discussed trauma for 45 minutes straight. Like, I already know you're not fine.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to convince me now. I think Mama Bear might have done the most extreme bristling. in the past.
I would agree, but also argue that only when she was triggered.
Yeah, but she was almost only fronting when she was triggered.
Correct.
Which is part of why it was so consistent for her, but she also turned it up to 11 every time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an on-off switch for her. There was not a dial.
Yeah.
And I don't default to turning it up that high anymore under most circumstances.
Which isn't a bad thing.
I agree. But I do often still turn it up that high if it's circumstances that would have triggered Mama Bear.
Mm-hmm. Which is perfectly understandable.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering now who would be at the top of that list now. If it's still me after that fusion, or if it would be someone else now, because I don't do it as often and usually don't turn it up that high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of our sessions used to be more like that. We don't usually get deep into trauma with our therapist, but we do sometimes. And we usually get around to talking about it one way or another. But it depends on a lot of things. Sometimes we don't have the emotional energy to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's helpful long term, like really getting into it in therapy will often just kind of write off the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been with our current therapist for like 4 or 5 years or something like that now, so if that helps. It can be a long process sometimes. I don't feel very feminine right now.
That's okay.
It's usually not obvious to me that I'm feeling like a certain specific way about my gender unless something like really rubs me the wrong way or I'm just really disconnecting from something. And it's weird because like makeup used to be one of my things. And I don't want to be wearing makeup right now, but I don't want to go through the effort of taking it off right now either.
It's perfectly valid.
But I'm like pretty heavily depersonalizing every time I look at the like our perspective of the camera feed thing.
Maybe,
you know what I'm trying to say.
yeah, maybe don't look at that or make it so you can't.
The chat is right next to it. I'd have to put something on top of it, and I don't really want to. Because I also
That
have the
would be what
fun.
I meant.
I have the fun, like, still a little bit triggered perspective of I want to know what other people are seeing. You know?
Yeah.
We've been streaming for 2 hours.
Hmm.
I did not know that.
That's pretty decent, especially for being triggered.
I mean, we weren't triggered the whole time.
No, but still.
Did I put Anna in the... Nope.
Did I? No.
I forgot that Anna was out too. Aura started the stream, put on the Primal Collective station, which was her first mistake.
I agree.
And then it played a few of Anna's songs really close together, and Anna switched, and there were a bunch of people around. And then we started rapid switching.
Mm. Ow. Ow. I'm really bad at this game.
I'm sorry. Hey, Sid.
It's fine.
Aura filmed and edited and uploaded the channel trailer that we're gonna publish sometime next week.
Nice.
For YouTube.
Very nice.
And then she completely forgot about the live stream and remembered just in time to start it.
And
she was planning out how she was gonna film another video.
Damn.
And then she was like, oh yeah, I said I was gonna do a live stream at 7. Oops.
They did really good then. You let them know I'm proud of them.
She says thanks. But imagine it really emotional and little, for accuracy's sake.
Oh, I did.
Good.
I already did that. Don't worry, I know what they're like when they get praise. And I also know the arguments they make whenever they get told that they're being adorable. And I know the arguments they're making now. Is this why Littles accused me of reading your mind?
Yes. Also, Ellie, it would be really hard for me to tell for sure how many switches happened in that little bit. Because I think Snake might have switched for like a second or two, or just got way closer and then backed off again. Shadow might have been out for a second or two. There was some back and forth between me and Jayden, for sure. Maybe part of why I'm so disconnected from the makeup is the colors. It's not how I would have done it. Not like I think it looks bad or anything like that, but
Yeah. I think Onyx Hedora was trying to match it to the hair or
yeah.
something.
I don't think I gravitate to red as much as I used to before all the fusions.
That's okay.
I pretty fully want to just do like silvers and grays and blacks and stuff.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, there can be rapid switching back and forth between just two altars.
Oh yeah.
It can also be a lot. It just depends.
It's usually easier when it's just a couple altars though,
Yeah.
because those altars usually have good communication at the time, and rubber banding back and forth between two is much more simplistic than having 10 people trying to talk all at the same time, or however many.
Mm-hmm.
Looks at a specific group.
Sid, did I actually give you a rundown of everyone who's around right now?
I have no idea.
Because I didn't put it on the app thing.
I don't know.
Which I
You
guess
can if
maybe
you
I
want,
should
though.
have, but actually that might help me to not miss anybody. I'll do that. Because I already told other people who are here, so. Yeah, I guess that's the only thing that would be complicated.
Hmm.
There are a few who don't want their names shared.
You could just type it.
Yeah, so I guess just like check with me in DMs before mentioning any of them by name if you wanted to for whatever reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't mention anybody. Fuck, am I
Okay.
supposed to do that?
It's gonna take me a minute to add all of them. Because I also have to do a lot of scrolling. You might be here too, actually. Yeah.
Hmm?
Thinking out loud, sorry.
How dare you?
My bad.
I was joking.
I know.
Hmm.
I think Natalie might still be here too, which surprises me a little bit. Okay, I think that's all of them. "13-ish
Also-
people."
Wow, that's a ton.
Uh-huh.
Was I supposed to have gotten a message?
Oh, it's on the app thing. I just added them all to the current fronters.
Okay. Let me look.
Yeah, I think it's generally more confusing when there's more altars involved in the rapid switching.
suppose I should change ours as well, real quick.
Yeah, from what I know about how all of that works in your system, Ellie, I could see that potentially working.
Hmm. Been a while since I've seen them. Interesting. Yeah,
Isn't
that's an
that a
interesting
fun
group of
bunch?
people. Oh yeah,
Uh huh.
that's wow. Yeah, hmm. That's a woof moment.
Mm hmm. It's always fun when the pack deems it necessary to send two gatekeepers. Especially if they send two gatekeepers and Jayden. Because
Hmm.
then it's a little bit like, oh, you're taking this kind of seriously. Maybe I should take this a little more seriously.
Wait, Jaden needs to or what?
Hmm?
What did you say? My brain blanked. Sorry.
Just that it's kind of almost a little unnerving when the pack decides to send more than one gatekeeper, especially more than one gatekeeper and Jayden, for whatever situation. And that sometimes is like the sign that tells me to assume that I should take things seriously,
Mm-hmm.
pay closer attention and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially because at least two of those altars who are around have like an emotionally numbing effect on people around them a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I will be a little more apathetic in a situation than the situation calls for if those altars are around. I mean, every system is different.
Oh yeah, easily different. Every system is very, very unique and different. And that's totally okay. Mm.
I might wrap this up soon.
Okay.
Crashing a little.
Yeah, that makes sense. It has been a while for sure.
Because I'm dissociating a fair bit now, too.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
And
Better for you to end it when you need to.
yeah, I was masking a lot before when I was really triggered, and so I'm crashing emotionally somewhat. Because that
Yeah,
took a lot of effort.
it generally does.
And I was too stubborn to end the stream then. Or maybe that was part of the masking. It probably was.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would have been like admitting something was wrong or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Even though it's totally okay for something to be wrong.
And even though I had said I was triggered, so like I had already admitted something was wrong, but maybe admitting how wrong it was. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It's okay.
But there was a stubbornness component for sure of like, I'm not admitting defeat. You know? I'll just brute force it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with that.
For simplicity, because my brain doesn't want to process information anymore, I'm gonna put the end screen thing up instead of trying to do an outro. So
works good.
Thanks for watching and all of that stuff. What?
Can I say some of the outro?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Don't forget to subscribe, like the stream and stuff, just to help with the algorithm and things. And have a lovely Pride and Day.
Alright. I'll put the thing up still for...
Oh, definitely. I probably forgot some stuff like
for
Discord.
like 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah,
Alright.
I definitely forgot to promote Discord.
Bye, everybody.